Hello and welcome, friends and family. This is Grillenheimer. Gamers Need Christ. But I'm actually talking about a game for a change. Um, Before I sold my SNES ages ago, my wife made me sell. I had to sell something if I wanted the original Xbox, or maybe the 360. I think it was the original Xbox. So, yeah, I know. But that was a long time ago. It was probably 2001, 2002, and I didn't have that. I did not get the SNES in its heyday, or the SNES as we used to call it, because I read a lot of Game Fan. Um, and yeah, they tend to be seem to side a little more on the Sega games, and thanks to Game Fan, we had a lot of good humor, some neat artwork, and some decent reviews of import games, because Sega of America was just crap back then. And I don't know if it was licensing issues or what, but the Saturn could have lasted longer than it did. It just wasn't marketed well, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, um, when I had the SNES, I had Final Fantasy 3, aka Final Fantasy 6. Since then, Square Soft, or Square Enix. That's we just call it. Most of us call them Squeenix for the most part. I'm a big Japanese RPG fan. Just so enjoyed. People were rushing to play Final Fantasy VII on their PS1s. I was playing Grandia in Japanese on my Sega Saturn, and just loving Grandia. And I finally got a SNES years after the fact, super cheap at TRU, if I remember correctly, and I got it for the RPGs on it, because the RPGs on it were very good. From Final Fantasy 3 at the time, Super Mario RPG, Chrono Trigger, among some other things. Well, I'm now replaying, yeah, Final Fantasy 6 Advance. Okay, and I started replaying it, and I've been playing a lot of little stuff here and there when I can, including Doom 2 on the 360, and I'm on Earth. I'm like, I don't remember going to Earth in Doom 2, but it's been so long since I played the Doom games. I'm kind of stuck in Doom 1. Boy, that's hard to say. And so I've been going between Final Fantasy 6, a little bit of, oh goodness, Final Fantasy 13 on my 360. That's the most recent system that I own is a 360. Infinite Undiscovery, which is really good, very underrated, very well done. It's an odd game. The storyline is okay. It's like Final Fantasy 13 turned into an action game is the best way I can explain it. I really like Infinite Undiscovery, and it's got some really good music to boot. But this is about music, because if you know where to, and I'm not promoting or ever since the whole thing with Napster, it's like almost 16 years ago, whenever it was, the government went to Napster about sharing music. And of course, you can go on Spotify, YouTube, all sorts of other places, and get. And I think that was the thing, was that Napster was simply free. There were no ads, there was no sponsorships or anything like that. So that was the big no-no. And now things are a whole lot different. But are they? They're still free to the consumer. So, and I think that was the big issue. But if you know where you can find free video game music and stream it and just listen to it, I would suggest going and looking up Final Fantasy VI Balance and Ruin. The album, it's I think there's a total of 4 CDs technically. Even though you're just going to see a whole bunch of tracks like 1 to 12, 1 to 10, 1 to 13, 1 to 11, whatever. You'll be like, what in the world? Well, it was based on, there was actual physical, it was a 4 CD set apparently, I think. If I'm thinking correctly. Because Final Fantasy VI had a lot of music, despite it was on a cartridge in for the SNES, even though I just showed the Game Boy Advance, and yes, it still works, and it's a great little system. Nintendo made the Game Boy Advances were, especially when it looked like a flip phone before we had flip phones, are just hardy little systems. But the first one I got, I think, the first one I got, I accidentally ran into the ocean with it in my pocket of my swimsuit, and it got zapped. Anyway, Balance and Ruin. Check it out. You are going to love it. If you like RPGs and you enjoy the music from them that the Japanese did in an arrangement of a variety. This CD is just a variety of music inspired by Final Fantasy VI. Definitely, if you remember the highlight of the game, and it's not the ending, it's near the beginning. I'm still not quite there yet. The opera. Once Terra finally gets there, I'm kind of at the part where everybody gets split off, and I'm having to go through all their little storylines to be able to get them back together again eventually. But when she ends up accidentally coming across the opera, and they're looking for the main girl who's left, and she just happens to look just like her, and you have to pick the right things, is interesting, and it's fun, and it's a complete, like, completely almost throws the RPG out of whack, and you're like, what in the world is this? This is funny, and interesting, and almost like an actual mini opera with a very typical operatic or operetta kind of setting, with this love triangle going on between the knight, the thief, and a princess. Or I thought she was supposed to be a princess. But Balance and Ruin does their version of it in 3 different tracks. Final Fantasy 2002-02-20 is very symphonic, and that's very good. Black Mages did a version of it as well, which is very good. This is like as if Trans-Siberian Orchestra did it, with somebody that somewhat sounds like Weird Al singing. And once you hear it, you can't unhear it, but it is done very well. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy VI, if you enjoy that RPG in its characters and its music, and you haven't heard Balance or Ruin, I really suggest looking for it where you can listen to it for free, to stream it for free or download it or whatever. I think you're going to enjoy it, because I cannot get enough of this. So, you know, I still have a ton of game systems, and I just don't have enough time to play anything or much nowadays. You know, a little here, a little there. Excuse me. That's right. I was playing a little Lost Odyssey some too. I had restarted it. I had to have a game save for Infinite Undiscovery, and I started a hard version, and now I started an easy version, because I did open up hard after finishing the game on normal, and Doom 2 is just looks so great. Of course, it's just Doom 2 from 30 something years ago. On the 360, and plays perfectly, and with a controller, it's just wonderful. It's just great. I don't know if you can do the God code in there at all, since you used to take a keyboard to do some of those secrets from the old computers, you know. But that's and Crimson, not Crimson Skies. That I never finished that. And that's another thing. Final Fantasy 3 on the Super NES, I never finished. I got very far into it, and I got to a point I didn't know where to go. So I'm hoping now that I'm kind of playing this again when I can, which I don't normally don't have a lot of time. Um, I'd like to really try to finish Final Fantasy 6 Advance. Um, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not very far, but just a fun game. Just great music. It, it came before Final Fantasy 7 on the PlayStation 1. Talk about a blast from the past. And golly, oh, and I saw the list for the Sega Genesis Mini 2, and on there for the Sega CD stuff, I did see Final Fight, both I think the Echo games, the Echo CD, Sylphid, which I loved. Love. Love's too strong of a word. Sylphid, which was really good. I never could finish it. I don't know why. I always got to the last boss in Sylphid and just could not finish it. And the game went really well with Petra, of all things. I remember that. I did not see Vi. They did not have Vi. They did not have Lunar. They did have Shining Force CD on there. In the list, and I'm like, oh wow. And it was Sulface listed in there. But they're golly, I'd really like to get my hands on the Sega Genesis Mini 2. That just has a chock full of games on it. And since Sega is doing it, they're going to get the emulation perfect, because I did get a previous little mini Genesis years ago for my son, but it was not official and it was not very good. The sound was mixed up, and I think I even put a review out there on Amazon years ago, just warning people how bad it was. Some games were almost unplayable. How the music was like a couple. It was like in the wrong key, and then I forgot if it was. Did they have Gunstar Hero or Sonic? And it was like the third of the chord would be completely in the wrong key. The music was really messed up. If you put your TV on mute, it was playable, and that was sad, because so many of those games require a lot of audio cues, as well as being able to enjoy the music as you play. And if you mute your TV, and some of them had really bad slowdown. I think it had Gauntlet 4 in that little not Genesis thing that I had, and it's downstairs in a bag, and it was just terrible. It was just terrible. But that's really all I was wanting to mention, was really just promoting Balance and Ruin. I'm not sure how old the album is, or the CDs are, but yeah, if you know where to check out and listen to video game music for free, check it out. Especially if you're a fan of video game music in general, a variety of different kind of arrangements. This one is full of them, full of different genres. The operetta is, like I said, it sounds like TSO. And what are they known for? Christmas music. It's got that sound. It's not quite Mannheim Steamroller, which is more rock/folk Christmas music, which I love. I really enjoy Mannheim Steamroller. I'm a big fan of their stuff. Fresh Air, oh my goodness, Fresh Air 1 through 8. If you're familiar with their Christmas music and you haven't heard their Fresh Air series, you need to listen to their Fresh Air series. It's really well done. Chip Davis and his dad, years ago when his dad was still alive, You need to check that out. Fresh Air 7 is probably one of their best albums. 2 is my favorite. I remember having a debate with a guy in college, and his favorite was 7, with the chakras and all that, and the Big Dipper, and everything that has to do about sevens, the colors of the rainbow, and all this. Anything that dealt with sevens, it was really, really neat. Their albums are just different. So different. The music stores didn't know where to put Mannheim Steamroller back in the 80s. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for just listening to me, just talking about games and music. A little something different. You never know what I'm going to do. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening. And as always, have a blessed day and peace.